And, of course, it is that time of day, 4:15, where we have Creation Ministries come into the studio. And today, after a bit of a break, we have a man who, well, he used to be, one of the bigwigs with the Australian Navy. He's been on ships so many times, it's not funny. And so where's he been? He's been missing from here. He's been on a ship, but it's not a big Navy ship. Dr. John, how are you this afternoon?
I'm very well, Mick. I'm delighted to be back. It seems like an age. I mean, it's got to be a couple of months since I've been here.
It's been a while.
Oh, yeah. And look, I just heard you talk about that November appeal. And I have to say right at the beginning that from Creation Ministries, we're so stoked to be able to get on this program. And it is so important for Christian radio to be able to put out there, for the benefit of people who might be wondering, just the truth about the Bible and how reliable it is. And so I'd really encourage everybody to get behind your November appeal. It's a great thing to have Christian radio and have the truth getting out there on the airwaves. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Dr. John, well, why did you choose to go away on a boat? A man that's been in a boat for half his life jumps on a boat again.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's good fun, Mick, and sometimes it even gives you something to talk about, and that's actually what I want to talk about this week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I've been on a holiday. I went to Hawaii for a couple of days, and then got on a ship, and we cruised back here to Sydney. So
all the way from Hawaii,
all the way from Honolulu, and only got back 2 weeks ago, and lots of time at sea, and we saw a lot of water.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to talk about this afternoon, because there really is a lot of water out there.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, I've spent a bit of time on the water, both in the Navy, and I've been on a few cruises too. But look, if we look at the Bible's account of creation, what we see right at the beginning in the first couple of verses of Genesis is that the Spirit of God is moving over the face of the waters. So, of course, according to the creation story in Genesis, water has been here right from the very start. Mm-hmm. Now, lots of it was above the earth, a lot below the earth. And as we know, at the time of Noah, both those collections of water changed a little bit. The ones up top rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and all the subterranean stuff, the fountains of the great deep, that was all broken up. And of course we had the great flood of Noah, and that lasted for a whole year. And then the mountains, at the end of it, the mountains rose up.
Just to stop people being confused, it did last for a year. That was the flood. The rain lasted for 40 days.
The rain didn't last a year, but the floodwaters did last for 12 months. Mm-hmm. And, of course, at the finish, when the mountains rose up and the valley sank down, that torrential water runoff carved the valleys as we know them now, and the rivers as we know them now are the leftover water channels where that water ran off into the sea.
Yep.
And so, of course, our oceans now are full of that water of the flood. Now, one of the things that we can say is that the observed facts that we see in the world around us, they absolutely fit that story like a glove. Mm. But the evolutionists don't like it, mainly because it, of course, includes a creator God, and they don't like that. But it is a huge problem for evolutionary belief, mm-hmm. because the secular scientists continue to insist that the Earth and the universe began with a Big Bang. Now, first there was nothing, and then it exploded. That's the story of the Big Bang.
Yep.
But the problem with that belief, as far as Earth is concerned, is that originally, if there was a Big Bang, Earth had to be this huge red-hot cloud of swirling gas and dust and whatever that eventually congealed, I suppose you'd say, to form the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been red hot to start with, and so obviously no water could have existed in that environment. It would have all evaporated. So the big question for the evolutionists is, where did that water come from?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, my latest cruise holiday just reminded me of how much there is. And it's worth mentioning on this, if you pick up a cruise in Hawaii and then you go to French, Polynesia, it takes you 6 days to get there.
Mm.
And you don't see another ship in that time. You don't see any land in that time.
And you're full steam ahead in between.
Yeah. And every morning the captain comes on the ship's PA, and he gives you the ship's speed, which is usually about 17 or 18 knots, which is about 30 k's an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not lightning fast, but it's pretty steady.
Yep.
And, of course, remember, a ship does that 24 round the clock, 24 hours. And the captain would also give you the latitude and longitude, the ship's position, and also the amount of water under the keel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always over 5,000 metres.
So it's kilometres down.
5,000 metres is 5 k's.
Yep.
Now, that's about the distance from Erina to Terrigal.
Yep.
So it's a good distance.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, that's not the deepest part of the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
The Marianas Trench is 10,000 metres. So that's 10 k's, so twice as much. You could bury Mount Everest there.
Mm.
So really there is a lot of water. And on the way to French Polynesia, then when you leave Tahiti, which is in the southern hemisphere, it's another 5 days steaming in the southern hemisphere to get to New Zealand.
Mm.
So, the amount of water is just enormous. And when you look at one of those globes that you'll see in the travel agents and you have a look at the Pacific Ocean, it's about 10,000 k's across.
Mm.
So, it is absolutely immense. So, if the evolutionists were right about the Big Bang, no water at the beginning, where did it come from?
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, they've been speculating about that for a long time, and the only obvious answer is, well, it must have come from outer space. If it wasn't here at the beginning and it's here now, it's got to have come from somewhere. So outer space is the logical answer, and so they suggested that. Because they were of the view that comets and meteorites and asteroids and things might have some water on them, the theory was that maybe crashing comets and asteroids in the early days of Earth's formation might have brought all the water here. Mm-hmm. Now, they were pretty confident there was some ice on comets, and so a few years ago they sent up a probe to land on a comet and prove it. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, there was some ice on the comet. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, not a huge amount, I suppose, a small percentage of the comet. Most of it would be dust and rock and that sort of thing. But, they think if you've got billions of years to have comets and asteroids crashing, and you've got to have a quadrillion of those episodes, then you might get the amount of water.
Only having billions of years would be the only way you could possibly
you'd
get
have
that.
to have, it is so fanciful, Mick, because when you think about it, if most of the comet is rock and whatever, and there's a bit of ice, and they brought all the Pacific Ocean and all the other oceans here. Where's the leftover rock and debris? It just...
Well, you'd assume it would end up in the same ratio as a comet that we see now.
Well, that's right. Yeah. But where is it? So anyway, look, I think it's just amazing. And just think about that as a possible explanation. And really, it's amazing that serious scientists, supposedly intelligent people, could come up with an explanation like that, because it is just so fanciful that you can't even imagine that it could possibly be true.
Yep.
And of course, one of the things that they did when they sent the space probe up was to analyse the water on the comet.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another shock, because the water on the comet wasn't really like water on Earth. Now, you would think water's water, surely, I mean, how can you have different water? Well, actually you can, because as we know, water is composed of hydrogen and oxygen, right? But there is an isotope of hydrogen called deuterium, and they call it heavy hydrogen because, as well as the proton in its nucleus, it's got a neutron, so it's twice the atomic weight of hydrogen. And it combines with oxygen to form what they call heavy water, deuterium oxide. Anyway, the comet had a lot more deuterium in it than the water on Earth. So the composition was wrong.
Yeah.
So not only is it absolutely fanciful that you might think of, that as an explanation, even the composition wasn't the right stuff. So really, I think you've got to say that the secular world doesn't have any explanation as to where the water came from. Yes. What they thought might have been the case can be seen to be ludicrous, and the water was the wrong composition anyway.
There you go. You're on 94.9. It is 27 minutes past 4. We've got Torrin Wells up next with Fake It. We'll be back with Dr. John after a bit of a break. Good afternoon. That was Plum. Somebody Loves You. You're on 94.9. It is 22 minutes to 5, and we have Dr. John in the studio from Creation Ministries International. And he's here to answer your questions. If you've got any, please send them through. Send them through to our text line. Just SMS 0401 949 949. Now, Dr. John, you've been on this great cruise with so much water about. I always wondered, prior to the flood, was there the same amount of water? Was there oceans before? Was there less ocean? You guys have talked about these giant trenches that are sort of out off the coast that were formed by runoff. Is that because there was less water before the flood? What was there?
I don't think there could have been less water, Mick. I think it would have been the same amount, but not in the same positions. Because, yes, we still have subterranean water, but I think you'd have to concede that the amount of subterranean water before the flood might have been much, much, much greater than it is now. So, when the Bible says all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, I mean, it doesn't say any more than that. So you're left to speculate, but I suspect that there was a much greater amount of water under the earth than there is now. So
some of these channels that the creation speakers have mentioned off the coast that are caused by runoff, would that be because the land has been pushed up and literally changed shape?
Absolutely, yeah. It's usually thought that the sea levels were quite a bit lower during the Ice Age. So, we talk about climate change. The Noah's flood was, the climate change to end all climate change.
That was huge.
It was huge, and we can't even begin to imagine what the Earth before the flood was like. I mean, we know that the amount of vegetation was absolutely massive because there's coal everywhere, even in the Antarctic where there aren't any trees anymore. And we know that there was giantism in the animals. They were much bigger than they are now. So it really was a completely different Earth, and I find it very hard to imagine what it was. But what we have now is the leftover from the flood, the reshaping of the earth from the flood. And the Bible says the mountain rose, the valley sank down, and the water ran off into the ocean. So, we can't look at today's earth and make any confident assertions about what the pre-flood earth looked like.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about people like Elon Musk? I mentioned him earlier today. He said that he's got this new solution to prevent the Earth from heating up too much, and he wants to put up this giant constellation of satellites to bounce the sunlight and shade the Earth. Is he being a little bit sort of? I guess he's presuming this is something that's happened over such a long period of time. And from what you're saying, if this was only from the flood, what we're seeing now with the changing climate in the Alps, where the giant ice blocks are sliding down the mountain and melting away, this is something you'd expect straight after an ice age.
Yes, but look, Mick, I don't think. If we're right and we believe the Bible is true, that the earth is only 6,000 years old, and after the flood there was an ice age and that ice melted and the water levels rose again, I think man trying to interfere with nature is very, very foolish. I don't think. Yes, climates change, but to assume that it's man-made, I think, is an assumption that we really can't make. And I'm not in favour of any interference with what goes on. Just let it happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, this cruise. Tell us more about the cruise, Dr. John.
Well, I was going to mention the creation.com website too, Mick, because I get a lot of the topics that I like to talk about from that site. And I've got another one just now. But I'd love all our listeners to have a look at creation.com, see all the articles that are on there, and generate some questions for us, because otherwise I'll have to go on another holiday to think of any more questions. But there was another article on the CMI website in the last couple of weeks that really intrigued me, and very interesting, because it was about blue eyes.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure what colour your eyes are, Mick, but I've got blue eyes.
Yep.
And brown eyes are apparently the by far the most common. And brown-eyed people have got more melanin pigment in their irises than blue-eyed people who don't actually have a blue pigment.
Yep.
Right. They've had a mutation that stops them producing the brown eyes, and so their eyes look blue because of light scattering and things like that.
Wow.
A bit like the sky looks blue, but the sky isn't really blue. That's because of light scattering. If you're looking at the sky from the International Space Station, it would be black. It wouldn't be blue.
Yes.
It's only because of the Earth's atmosphere that we see it that way. But yeah. Anyway, the point is, there was an article done by Danish scientists looking at blue eyes. Probably because a lot of Danish people have got blue eyes. It intrigued them a bit, but. They were speculating that some tens of thousands of years ago there might have been some mutation that's caused it. But we, because we know that our Bible is true, we can actually nail down when the mutation occurred. Mm-hmm. Because as we know from Scripture, after the flood, the whole earth had one language and one speech. And all the descendants of the survivors of the flood congregated in that area that we call Mesopotamia, between the two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. And they didn't disperse and go and spread out over the earth like God told them. So God confounded their languages, and they had to stop building the tower at Babel. But you see, it looks as though that mutation must have occurred sometime after the dispersion, because there was free intermarriage between all the people at the time of Babel, up until Babel, and we only find that blue-eyed mutation in Europeans, and particularly Northern Europeans.
Yep.
Well, I've got a bit of a Scandinavian background myself, which is probably where I get my blue eyes from, because my father had blue eyes, and he was Scandinavian stroke Irish, but my mother had brown eyes, and she was English stroke Irish. And one of my sisters has got brown eyes, but the rest of my siblings are blue eyes. So, the mutation's in our family, all right, but there are others in the family who didn't get the mutation.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, look, it's very, very interesting, I think, and but we can nail down that mutation to sometime after the dispersion from Babel, whereas the researchers on the article, they had to relate it to sometime after the out of Africa dispersion, which is what the secular world believes. But yeah, there you go. You know, Northern Europeans in particular have got the mutation, but a lot of others haven't. Southern Europeans don't have it quite as much.
When you say mutation, is there anything in their sight that causes somebody with blue eyes to see less well? Like,
No, I don't think so. They do say that people with blue eyes are a bit more sensitive to light, but I personally haven't noticed that, and I don't wear sunglasses. Never have.
Oh, I do, and I walk around like that in sunlight.
So anyway, I don't wear sunglasses, and my eyes are supposed to be more sensitive to light, but I don't think they are. But anyway, there you go.
Yes. Wow, very interesting. Dr. John, our time has come to an end. Another awesome week, and I think you're back with us again next week.
I am here again next week, Mick, and let me throw it out again to all of our listeners. Send in your questions. There are plenty of things that we'd love to be talking about on this program, but we want to know what you want us to talk about.
Absolutely. Come on, anything to do with evolution, creation, even dinosaurs or aliens, they all fit the bill. Just send the questions through to our text line. That is 0401 949 949. You are listening to 94.9 this afternoon. And a big thank you to Dr. John. Another awesome week from Creation Ministries. Don't forget to go to creation.com if you have any questions that you need answered straight away, or maybe one of the kids has run up to you and asked a question, you're sort of scratching your head. Go to creation.com. Thousands of pages of info, and you'll find answers in there. Thank you, Dr. John. We look forward to next week.
Thanks, Mick. I'll be here.
You are on 94.9. It is 11 minutes to 5. Leland up next, The Great Awakening.